This is the Markegg Nature Reserve in eastern Austria, a haven for white storks, white-tailed eagles, grasshoppers, butterflies, beetles, and even wild conic horses that gently graze the grass here. This project isn't just about conserving nature, but actively restoring it, intervening, for example, to bring back the floodplains. We'll see more of this sort of project if the EU's nature restoration law is passed this summer. Ola Miklasińska of WWF Europe says it is vital that this law is passed.
Well, it is so important because we are facing the climate crisis and a biodiversity decline at the same time. And this is what science is telling us. This is not deniable. So nature restoration is actually a solution to address this both. We can address the impacts of the climate change, such as droughts, floods, the heat waves, for example, in the cities, and so on. And of course, by restoring nature, we can also bring biodiversity back, so we can actually, turn the tide of the biodiversity crisis. So it is a solution to basically the biggest threats that we are facing at the moment.
Because restored nature is more resilient to extreme weather, and also restored nature is better at capturing carbon.
Yes, restored nature is resilient to the extreme weather events. So, for example, if you have a river restoration project and then you have floodplains, these are protecting people like us from the floods. And of course, nature is also like a major carbon sink. So, of course, if we want to reach our climate goals, if we want to, fulfill the commitments that we did, for example, in the Paris Agreement, we need to restore nature. There is no other way to do it.
And yet this law is so controversial. There's a lot of opposition to this law. Opponents say it's going to be too expensive. It's going to impact food security.
Yes, of course, there is going to be some costs to restore nature, but we have to think about it as an investment. We have to think what is the cost if we don't do it. And we know before this proposal was actually tabled by the European Commission, there was an impact assessment, and the numbers from the impact assessment tells us clearly the cost of inaction is 10 times higher than the cost of the action of restoring nature. So we are all seeing what's happening now around Europe. We are seeing the droughts happening, for example, in Spain. We are seeing the tragic floods that are happening in Italy. This will happen more often. And if we restore nature, we can actually increase the resilience of our ecosystems. We can make ourselves more immune to this type of events. I think it's imperative for us to do it as Europeans.
You're going to need the farming community on board. What would you say to a farmer to convince him or her that helping restore nature is good news also for agriculture?
I think this narrative that farmers don't want to restore nature, it is not true. There are a lot of farmers that work with nature. There are a lot of farmers that they have to be friends with nature, because without nature there is no farming. We cannot have food without nature, without healthy ecosystems, without pollinators. So I think it's more, I would like to address the people who say that they represent farmers, that we need to sit together and look for the solution. Withdrawing from the negotiations or saying that this law is not going to work doesn't bring any alternative, and we need to find the solutions to the problems that farmers are facing and will face even more in the future. And there are already farmers that are working with nature. There are lots of examples. For example, in Ireland, we have also, we know about farmers in Belgium, in the Baltic countries. Our WWF office in the Baltic region is also working with sustainable farmers, and they are already doing it. They are already bringing nature back to their farmland. So I would say to the people who say that they represent farmers, we need to work to find the solutions together, because without nature, no farming. Of course, there will be restoration projects happening like here. However, we will not have it on the large scale. This will be just initiatives here and there. And what we actually need it on the large scale. And of course, with having the nature restoration law, we could have additional funds to bring nature back to Europe.